It is Wednesday evening. You know what that means. It is time for another Auburn family night where we get together and we talk about whatever it is that you want to discuss that's within the Auburn experience. It's going to be all about your questions, your comments, and maybe even your calls right here, right now. Let's get into it. War Eagle Auburn family and War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us, whether you are watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, as we know many of you do. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. And it is a great night to be an Auburn Tiger and be here on our weekly show. We're going to get into anything that you want to discuss tonight. So come prepared with comments and questions. There is plenty of stuff to discuss. We can get into some Auburn schedule stuff for basketball that came out this week, SEC schedules, ACC, SEC, I almost said Big 12, challenge, the inaugural event that will be in men's and women's basketball. Those matchups were announced today. We're just sitting here waiting for football to get ever so closer, and plenty of other things going on out there that are worthy of discussing. So we will get into all of that tonight. A couple of things that I'd love for you to help me with if you could as we get started tonight. Start off the show as we always do, as your check-in period. Post where you're watching from, your city, state, international. If you're doing that, if you're in international as well, let us know that you're there. With a War Eagle is a great way to start the show and get your typing fingers ready to ask comments to ask questions and make comments. But also, we would love for you to smash the like button if you feel like we've earned it tonight. It is a huge help for us overall. I do want to do one quick bit of announcement at the very beginning. We'll mention this at the end of the show too. But tomorrow night, we are going live again at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Do not miss it. We're going to talk about crazy Auburn uniforms with Clint Richardson, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Same night as time as tonight, just one day removed. Don't miss it tomorrow night. We're going to talk with him about those crazy uniform concepts he comes up with every single year, the 2023 edition. So that is our housekeeping. Last bit, I said there was only one more thing. If you'd like to call in tonight, you can do so by using the link that's at the top of the YouTube chat. That's the only place it is available tonight. So do take advantage of that if you would like to. It is open and is always presented by our friends at All Things Auburn.net. Check them out if you have not done so. A few people already checking in and saying hello. Thomas, good to see you. Checking in from Leeds. Thanks for being here, buddy, and hanging out with us tonight. It reminds me, if you are a Booster Club member, if you haven't already, you should be receiving a notice or a message for us doing our annual, well, it's becoming an annual kind of get together and talk about what you want to see out of the Booster Club, kind of like an investors call of sorts. So be looking for that. We're going to try to schedule it when we can get the most people together. Probably want to do that within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And some of you have already, that's why Thomas sprung it up in my head. Some of you have already responded to that. So thank you so much for doing that. All right. Let's see. What do y'all want to talk about tonight? Like, what is most fresh on y'all's mind right now? As much as I know that you guys would, or I would love to talk about the basketball news, I get the feeling based off of like last summer when we started doing some schedule update videos that they didn't do as well. I thought they would. People would be pretty hyped about them, but they don't seem to do all that much. So I'm kind of interested if that's even a topic that y'all want to broach tonight, which we probably will at some point. But that is certainly something that I'm interested in. I can get into if you guys would like to hear my perspectives on that. Rob checking in from Huntsville, packing for another trip, but hoping to be back for football season. Well, that is quite a trip if you're hoping, which means it's a possibility that you may not be back for football season. Wow. May not be able to share where you're going, but given your extensiveness of travel and distance last time that we knew about, I can only imagine where you're going and what you're getting involved with, Rob. So hopefully you will make it back for football season, because it will not be the same without you here talking about it with us in the middle of the week. and we'll be doing plenty of that this time. In fact, Wednesday nights we'll have those still going on, but I'm debating still what we want to do in terms of the football live stream schedules. Last year we did Monday night grades with Ben King. That, and having Ben, as long as he wants to, is going to return in some format. But I'm also curious if you guys like the preview shows too. So we may mix it up a little bit this year. We may try it again for another year. I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get a little bit closer there. All I do know is that I'm excited for football season. Second of all, let me go ahead and pull the shot back out for you guys. What do you think? I don't know that I'm 100%, and I noticed that picture over here is a little bit crooked, but what do you guys think? Does it look good? Yay, nay? Is that color right here too red on screen? Jessica said that it looks too red in person. I said, well, every time that I go on screen to look at it, it's too yellow if I don't hit this slight shade of red. So if it is too red, let me know, but that's the closest I could get without becoming yellow to match the orange and blue. So if you guys like the new background and setup, let me know. Maybe might change a few things here or there, but this is pretty much outside of videos. You're going to see a little bit of a higher perspective maybe, but for live streams, this may be what you guys get going forward. So speak now or forever hold your face, your peace. Let's see. Love E2C, but military support is my passion, and we're thankful for that. So I would much rather you be more passionate about military support than me. And E2C. He says, yep, too red. Okay, well, that's one vote for that. See, that's the problem. I'll give you a little bit of I have these new light things on the back that allow me to well, actually, those are the old light things. The new light things are these blue tint things that you'll see them better on edited videos. But this one over here, if you go just like a hair less, it becomes yellow. So we'll try it a different color next time around. And my wife always tells me I'm a little bit colorblind too. So who knows if it actually is true or not. All right. Back to Auburn Family Night. If you'd like to call in, please do so. I'd love to hear from some of you tonight. We're usually on for about an hour, give or take, given how excited everybody is to be here. What are the big topics that you want to hit? I will jump into basketball if there's not something pertinent that you guys are wanting to talk about. Some podcasts, I guess is what you're saying here, worry about our wide receiver core and offensive line. What are your thoughts? I don't know who those would be. I'm guessing some of the more prominent ones out there that a lot of people listen to. But I think I've said this before. I don't listen to any other Auburn podcast, not because I don't want to. I take that back. I listen to Andy Burcham's because it's like the official Auburn podcast, right? But I just don't have the time to. So I wish I had kind of heard their perspectives on this. Here's where I feel like they're coming from, because the wide receiver core is nobody's yet stepped up and become the guy. It's that phrase I've been using a lot for the wide receivers. Become the guy. Who's going to be the guy that becomes the guy? Hasn't really happened yet. For offensive line, it's really, we've been burned so bad. Who's to say even changing it over like this is going to fix the problems? We don't know that. But I think the offensive line size, you should probably have a little bit more optimism about things improving. That's just my assessment of it. But some podcasts worry about wide receiver cores, no line. I think it's fine to worry about it. I think it's perfectly fine to speculate. Let me also put it to you this way. You guys know I like to pull the curtain back on myself, but just, I want us to call it the industry and make it sound like it's some exclusive thing. But content creators struggle to have topics and have content to create during this time period, especially when we're very Auburn sports centric. And sometimes, it makes it sound like it's like more nefarious. Sometimes we generate topics that may not be there just so that we can have something to talk about. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but I could also see that playing into this as well. But I think if you were going to pick two areas on offense or defense, and all of the units, you probably would look and say, hey, these two are probably the most susceptible to have problems. Quarterback is what it is. We have no clue what to make of it. Is Peyton Thorne going to be the answer? Is Robbie Ashford taking that turn in his career? We won't really know that. It's kind of like a simple equation there. Running backs, if everybody's there, looks pretty solid. Tight ends, I think, is going to be very solid this year, at least in reliability and experience. Defensive backs going to be probably pretty solid too. Probably maybe our strongest unit. I think linebackers will be a sneaky good position for Auburn this year. And I also think that the defensive line, while maybe needs to figure out who's going to be their guys at each of those positions outside of the interior, I think they could be sneaky good as well. So when you look at what are the two positions overall that have the most question marks, wide receiver and O-line. So yeah, I think that's a fair statement too, to say if we're going to question one or two position areas, wide receivers and offensive line is fair. What do you guys think? Running backs, what's your number one, number two, number three? Well, this is going to be a boring answer. It's Jarquez, Damari Alston, and Brian Body. And I haven't gone back and watched Brian Body's highlight reel very often, and definitely not lately. I know what was in his stats when we did his video about him. New setup, getting used to everything here, moving the hands and such. So I could make a case where I say that he and Damari are like 2A and 2B, but it's Jarquez, Damari, and Brian Body. If for some reason Jarquez misses time, then I think it really is just at that point who has in practice and at the game separated themselves. I think Damari, he's had a little bit of extra time with the staff, so they kind of know what he can do. But it's hard to look past the experience of Brian Body, right? And then you've got Jeremiah Cobb. I'm really excited about his future and what he might potentially be here at Auburn, but I don't think his time is now. Now, if somebody's missing or, hurt or something down the line, then maybe, just maybe, we see a little bit of extra bodies at running back than we might have seen. Yeah, so that would be my assessment. It's kind of boring. Jarquez Hunter, number one. Number two, I'll just say Damari Alston, number three, Brian Body. But that 2 and 3 can easily equalize and change given the day. But I tend to give a little bit of leeway to who's been here the longest. I think experience does a lot. Most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. Going back to your question, though, I will be I don't know if you guys have seen the segments. There's the YouTube channel, The Voice of College Football, with Mark Rogers, and he and I get together and talk about Auburn stuff every so often. I'll be appearing on his show later this summer, within a few weeks or so, I would bet. We'll be talking about position by position. So he and I will kind of hash that out a little bit more in detail, and maybe we'll have some more answers. I know everybody's still concerned about, allegedly what happened with Jarquez, and is that going to affect us going into the year? The great thing, though, is if for some reason he were to miss time, or anybody really, I think that group is pretty well. There's a lot of deceptive talent at a lot of different areas on this team. I think the one clear unit that you look at for the strength of this team, defensive backs, anchored by Nehemiah Pritchett, Keontae Scott, JD James. I cannot remember which one he is. It's been that long. My mind is completely shut down. That group is going to be pretty solid, I think. So super excited to see what they can do this season. And especially when offenses seem to be going a little bit more pass heavy, at least some of them, maybe they can eat a lot this season. So we'll see. Keep your comments and questions coming. But I do want to mention, before we get too far into the show, the ACC SEC Challenge The games have been announced, the matchups, and most of the times and dates, I believe they all were, but I don't want to say something I'm not 100% sure of. But not necessarily TV networks. But let me ask you guys this. How do you feel about the ACC SEC challenge versus the Big 12 SEC challenge? Because that's what's happened. That last year was the final year of that matchup. Didn't go in Auburn's favor. This is the first year of this new thing to replace the Big 12. And the Big 12 effectively is dying with Auburn taking over Oklahoma and Texas. So there was a need to kind of match up with a better conference in basketball terms for something like this. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. It does. It makes absolute sense for us to go that way. It seems like the Big 10 and the Big East tend to do a similar thing, I think. Or maybe it's the Pac-12, and then I can't remember. The Pac-12 feels like they're that odd man out on everything, doesn't it? I don't care what the sport is, because they're so far removed from everything. It's like if they find success, that's the only time that we really pay attention to them. Circa, USC football, early 2000s to mid 2000s. But they really just kind of sit out there and do their own thing. And every once in a while, they'll have a gym. Oregon maybe gets into the picture football wise, but yeah. So there's that. Auburn hosting the challenge is big for us. Welcome to the jungle. Yeah. Okay. So this is the way my mind works. I'm glad you brought this up, Thomas. I always look at when something's scheduled for us, what else is happening that weekend? Did y'all figure out what's happening that weekend? If my timing is correct, if I have the schedule right in my head, that's Iron Bowl weekend. So if my timing's correct, that means on Wednesday, you have men's matchup in the ACC SEC Big 12 Challenge. Same thing for the women the next day. Friday is when everybody starts getting to town. And I guess that would be Thanksgiving too on Thursday, which is tough. Or unless Thanksgiving's the next week. I got to really go look at the calendar. Either way, it's going to be an eventful week in Auburn. It was brilliant on their part, deciding to do that. I love it when they get a lot of events happening together and giving us more of an opportunity to invest in a weekend as a whole rather than just a day in Auburn. I know not everybody can do that. Not everybody owns an RV. Not everybody can afford hotels. But hey, if you got family in surrounding areas, you can drive in and enjoy some of the other things just other than the Iron Bowl weekend. Neil, is there anything new on Auburn football? I haven't heard anything new. Trying to think if there's anything like big new. The numbers came out apparently. Or it was that. Yeah, I think they started releasing some numbers for players. And I guess that would be your most exciting news. They're taking pictures with that, doing their photo shoots, getting the hype ready for the season, right? But yeah, that's probably the only thing. There's no news on the Jarquez Hunter Legend situation. There was a departure from the program reportedly. Court Bradley, who came over from UAB 2 seasons ago, I think, and kind of got stuck in the depth. I think he was even a walk-on. I thought he was a scholarship player, but offensive lineman has left. But you can kind of understand why he would leave, right? Hugh Freeze just brought in basically an entire offensive line to fill the gaps, to restart things here. So you got to find playing time where you can play it if you're a player, understanding that it's probably not going to be this season. And if Auburn does a really good job with their offensive line recruiting this next year, you're going to start seeing, that kind of transition piece in the 2024 season. A few of the guys left over that had eligibility left that stayed, didn't go into the draft. Some of these younger guys finding their place and then inserting some of those brand new, fresh guys from maybe this recruiting cycle. you could get lost in the shuffle. So I understand, I do, why you would want to go find another opportunity somewhere else. But that's Court Bradley leaving the team, their numbers being released, which I don't know that there were a lot of big changes to numbers for the football players. Feel like there's one thing. I always say this, I feel like, but it does feel like there's one bigger thing out there that I'm missing that we're not talking about. Right now, it's just speculation season. As you talked about, it seems like some podcasts are talking about what units worry them the most. Wide receivers, offensive line, maybe. This is really, truly talking season. It honestly, as nice as it is to have a break, when college sports seasons officially stop, and I know not a lot of you get into college baseball, but when it's over now, and boy, howdy, wow, what into it. But from that until the middle of July, it is just doldrums. It is just crickets. It is just quiet. It is just boring for the most part. But this is when most of us get our, travels in, our vacations in, so I don't mind the time. I have a feeling, though, that Auburn's recruiting is about to start picking up again. Supposedly, we are getting a commitment this Friday from, Khalil House is committing this Friday. So you do the math there. Malik Blockton is committing on July 8th. And then there's this supposed wide receiver commitment that's out there or flip, maybe. But yeah. The other thing too, kind of switch gears because I'm just thinking about maybe upcoming breaking news. If you are a Booster Club member, we shared a tidbit about baseball in there. Reportedly, we know who the new pitching coach will be. Darren Schoenrock stepped down, reportedly. I don't know that it's been officially confirmed by any official people, but that was the report. And I think we know who the other person will be. I know a candidate was in town. So check that out if you're a Booster Club member. It's not really a public thing that we do right now. Thomas says that Jarquez participating with the team gives me hope for a short suspension, if any at all. Hoping he will be back for SEC play. Yeah. Well, there's two ways this can happen, right? Did he already serve his suspension? Now, how effective is that suspension if there's not real consequences to that, meaning loss of game time and stuff like that? So most people, especially those that will be most adamant about a response needs to be had to this situation that allegedly happened, they will definitely want some game time loss. And there's at least one game that you could probably give up and not hurt that bad without him. Hopefully, we say that. Things like Georgia State and Missouri these days make me shiver. Missouri on homecoming, you nearly lose. Oh man. If Hugh Freeze, if he wants to give me success early on and just make me happy, just let me have a easy, non-nerve-wracking homecoming game. Look, we all know that these homecoming games sometimes are a little bit boring. They're really something you go to at halftime for most people. I don't, but I think that's what most people do. And then you get out of there and go to whatever else you're going to be doing. I'm for that again. I'll stay for the whole game, but I'm ready for there to be a little bit of chill when it comes to homecoming games for the next few seasons. Devin's here. Good to see you, Devin. Thanks for checking in. Happy to have you here. So yeah, Jarquez being back, apparently, I guess you said participating with the team. Is there something that you saw, Thomas, that he was participating in? I didn't go seeking it out, but I know they've been putting out some videos and stuff. If he was in there, yeah, it doesn't really effectively say that you suspended someone if it's like in the middle of off-season voluntary workouts. So there's probably going to have to be something like a game suspension if it's required. Don't worry, that'll all get kicked up very soon here, and we'll be. There's a quiet before maybe the excitement of the season that's going to set in, and then that'll unfortunately rear its ugly head, I think, rightly or wrongly. Anyway, I'm talking too much about that tonight. That's feels like not necessarily about the team, but as of today, they were less than 100 away from the season ticket record for Auburn football. Is that weird to y'all? First of all, it's weird that it's not like some insurmountable record already. It's also weird that it's happening with Hugh Freeze in his first year with not a lot to go off of after 2 abysmal years. Now, you could say that the 2 abysmal years have really fueled people to go ahead and re-up and make sure that they're getting them. But at the same time, it still doesn't correlate completely in my head. He was participating, Jarquez, in the football camps for the kids a few weeks ago, saw pictures. Yeah, okay, that's what I figured you were getting at, Thomas, something like that. Yeah, to me, that's not, in my view, that's not indicative of him having served his sentence or anyway, but that's not what you're saying. You're just simply saying it makes you feel better that he's being shown at those things. Yeah, that is a good sign in the sense that he will be part of the team going forward. It seems like you don't really conscious decisions are made on who you do and don't show. You know what I think back to on that is when On to Victory, the NIL collective really got going. And I think most of you have seen it by now, usually in the stadiums, the arenas. The video that first came out with Butch and with Bruce. Now, that came out in the middle of football season, and so Coach Harsin at the time was very busy, but he didn't make an appearance with them, with still a year to go pretty much for him. I think that was very telling. So the media team is very, I don't think I'm saying anything revolutionary here. They're very wise with who they do and don't include, so that would be a good sign. Yes, Devin, you have been missing. We've got a lot of people missing right now, and this is what happens every single summer since I've been doing this. We get, drops down a lot, but it comes back hopefully in the fall. But I kind of enjoy these as a little bit more easygoing, easier to keep up with, a little bit more intimate. I like these. I remember how excited Auburn fans were when Gus was hired. That spring game was big. But you also got to remember, too, with that, Neil, that was the last roll game. There was hype in general because of Gus coming in, and he was getting some of his players back essentially after only 1 year being gone and wanting to feel good about something after literally having the high of a championship and then 2 years later having the awfulness of what we went through at that time. So you can understand why the hype was pretty big there, but I think the last roll had most to do with that. That's still one of my favorite Auburn memories of all time. I mean, hands down. If you were at that, you felt something there that day. And if you've not looked up the last roll video, that I don't think it was put together by Auburn. I think it was put together by like an outside firm. And for a while, you had to go to like Vimeo to find it, but I think it's made its way other places now too. Just Google the last roll video, and you'll be able to tell it's nicely edited, got music in the background, and with much of it is voiced over by the speech that was given by David Housel that day, which is kind of our tagline for our main podcast, The Auburn Experience. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. And yeah, it was a special, special day that I will never forget. And that was the day actually, like I was moving to Georgia days later. And so it really hit me in the feels that this was happening. This new wave, this new transition was coming while I was leaving too. So it was, and I was only 2 years removed from college too. So there was a lot of feels for me in the air on that spring game. And wow, what an experience it was. Never seen so many people show up for a spring game. Upper decks, not filled, but about as filled as you could be. The hyper's rule was because Gus had a dynamic offense, something Auburn did not have after he left for the Arky State job. He also saved that recruiting class when Chiswick was fired. I think Auburn ended up ranked 11th. That sounds about right. Yeah, Gus did a lot of good work there to get us righted. And yeah, it was a fun start to that season. And no matter how it ended, it still was a fun season. 80K fans, thank you. I knew it wasn't our 88,000, but I knew we were close. When you looked up at that spring game, it almost looked like it looked just short of like a homecoming game where the corners of the upper deck are not filled in at all. But for a spring game, that's incredible. Like the fact that you had to go, it was hard to find a seat in the bowl. That's wild. It's absolutely wild. Because now we just fill in the sides, right? Or if it's a game like this one, you can have your pick of the seats, except for the ones that had some little bit of the overhang, which we all were fighting for. That was a fun season. I went to almost every home game that year. I have been to every home game, every first game for a coach so far since Gene. So Gene, Malzahn, Harsin, and hopefully I will make it to I'll be in town, but hopefully I will be in the game here for Freeze for his first time around. So it'd be cool to kind of keep that streak going. That season, I went to the Washington State game, the first one, which is wild. Washington State fans, they're a surprisingly rowdy bunch for being across the country. And they have a lot of contingencies of fans elsewhere, it seems like. Was it they call it Old Crimson, their flag? It's like got a representative everywhere. I went to that game, and that may have been it, actually. I think it was. I went to the Iron Bowl, but I was going to get there. The kick six, and man, wow, that thing was special. Ooh. Thomas knows what I'm talking about. That spring game was miserable this year, but it was worth being there just to see the Tigers on the field. Yeah. Look, anytime you get to Auburn, even on a miserable day like that, is a good day. And I still question why there wasn't an adjustment, especially with it being on SEC Network Plus. Like it's their alternate channel. Like you have to have a subscription to get there. Surely they could have moved the broadcast if that was the holdup. I don't know what the specific holdup was, but I really, really think they could have done something to move it up, because that rain, the wind was still there, the cold was still there, but that rain had finally started slowing down about right when we started exiting the stadium. So think if they had, and we were barely in that stadium for 2 hours, if they had backed the game up 2 hours, I think it would have been at least bearable. And you could have done something. One thing I remember about the 2013 season was when Mike Leach said Auburn is a championship team. They just need a quarterback. Little did he know. And look, he was judging Nick Marshall, which we all did, by who's this guy from this defensive back from Georgia who thinks he's going to be quarterback. And lo and behold, yeah, it just took him a minute to get that turning point. Was the Mississippi State game where he and CJ Uzama hooked up in that right corner of the end zone and won the game there. I think that was the first turning point. I think knocking off Johnny Manziel at Kyle Field out there in College Station was the big turning point. And then it was just like a steamroll from there. All the momentum was just going. Washington State fans are terrible, but I'm not biased or anything. I think you are biased. They're pretty rowdy from what I remember. We haven't had a chance to interact with them in recent history, but I remember they've got a reputation that follows them at least. Devin asks if Alumni Hall sells kids and baby clothes. I believe they do. Let me look that up for you. Of course, I think you know this by now. Just go through my link if you can. I'll send it to you in the chat anytime you're going over there just to look, because they want to know that we're sending people to them. I know, pulling back the curtain for you guys, but I'll even look on there myself and see if I can find some for you. But I believe there are some. I don't know that there's a lot, but let me look into that for you, and I'll get you the link too. I think the LSU game was the kick in the butt Auburn needed that year. They blew almost every team out after that game. So yeah, you could say that there were a bunch of turning points, but because the LSU game was the third game, I think, right? I'm pretty sure it was the third game of the year, and we got our butts beat. And all, like, here's the thing about people forget about that LSU game in 2013 is that there was a controversial onside kick call coming out of the half that I think was initially ruled our way. They reviewed it, and even still, I don't know what they saw, gave it back to LSU. I don't think they scored, but it kind of, once you saw what happened the rest of the second half, you kind of asked the question, Auburn only lost by 2 touchdowns. What happens if you score that one? And they had chances too to get back within like a touchdown at the very end too. So the fight and the desire and the drive the team showed and I don't think the conditions were all that great that day either. I think it was kind of misty or rainy. It was commendable, and I think it really galvanized the team. I had a great experience with Washington State fans in 2006. I was at that one too. I've been to both. Isn't it weird that it took 7 years for them to complete that double home match? I know we didn't go to them, but I think we had agreed to 2 home games with them coming out, and they finally got it done 7 years later. Had a great time with them at a tailgate, exposing them to Southern food. I think, so hear me out on this. I think that's one of the reasons why the Penn State weekend was so special last week, because we were like 2 different cultures clashing, and I think they were surprised at how nice Auburn fans were, how nice the campus was. Everybody's got this reputation. We're all rednecks. A lot of us are, if you look at the Bama fans. But maybe I am too. I don't know. But yeah, I think that happens. It's great when that happens. You can introduce them to your culture when they come down here. The Washington State logo is one of my faves in all of sports. I'll admit this, Neil. It was probably within the last 2 or 3 years that I realized it spells out WS. I thought it was just a weird drawing of a cougar head. And then I realized there was a WS in there. So. There's nothing wrong with being a redneck. Well, a certain type of redneck. Bama fan redneck, yes, that's wrong. But an Auburn redneck, that's a different kind of redneck. That's hardworking, good people most of the time. Most of the time, we've all got our ones that are weird, but yeah, it is what it is. All right. Thought there was another topic that I wanted to touch on tonight, big one, but I slipped my mind now. We got into so many little tangents there. Good tangents. But it was something related to the what? Oh, maybe this was it. So I think I said this on Sunday night after the Auburn Experience live recording. I'm considering this year, hold your horses, everybody. We're not doing a tailgate officially yet or anything like that, but I may investigate staking claim on a certain spot for this season and into the future. If that happens and if it works out, then I may start kind of advertising where that is, and we may encourage people to first start coming just to hang out. Not going to be really an official thing, and then maybe it can evolve into something. But this year is going to be a lot of trial and error, so we'll see. It won't, and it probably won't be an official E2C network thing, except that I'll be there and there may be a banner there or something like that. But just know that a lot of you have requested that, and we're working on that. All right, we got our first caller tonight, so let's go ahead and say hello to him. Most of you know him, you love him. He's Mr. Optimism, and maybe, just maybe, he can make us feel good about this season. You know him, you love him. Here he is, Mr. Kevin. What's going on, sir?
Yeah, I think we will go 12-0.
You were right there, ready to go as soon as I brought you up. Look at you; it's like timed perfectly. I love it. You think we're going to go 12-0?
Yeah, they pick LSU to do that, but I think Auburn will.
Why do you think that Auburn has a better chance of going 12-0 than LSU?
Because we got talented players.
But don't you think LSU's got talented players too?
No.
He didn't even hesitate, guys. He just said flat out no. Listen, I'm going to give him credit where credit is due. I think they've got a lot of talent at LSU. But hey, just because you got a lot of talent doesn't mean that it all comes together. Remember Texas A&M last year? Remember how bad they were? They had every bit of talent you could have ever wanted.
Yeah.
So you may have a point there. What else is on your mind?
And I think they're talking about Cam Coleman might be committing to Auburn soon.
I thought I saw, Kevin, that he was not committing until National Signing Day. Now, that may have changed recently. I could be out of the loop on that, but I saw the story that said he was not committing to National Signing Day, but then it started kind of being discussed through message boards and stories then that maybe things had ramped up. I think mainly just a prediction or two came out in Auburn's favor, and I think that's fair to say at this point.
Yeah.
Given how he's been here a lot and has come back with other people has been here. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know that if he's the first wide receiver commit, I will be shocked. Well, he wouldn't be because Bryce Cain's already here, but the next wide receiver commit, I would be shocked because I just felt like it was clear he was not going to commit to National Signing Day. I
will be shocked if we get Perry Thompson, DeMarcus Riddick, and Cam Coleman, all three.
If Hugh Freeze swings those three, you're talking about two flips and a big time just signing who's not committed yet. Boy, oh boy, man! Look, people.
I think
somebody comes in with a reputation like Hugh, with being a great recruiter, but when he actually does it and follows through with that reputation, it's good.
I think Jaquez Hunter will be the starting running back the first game.
I don't see any reason why we shouldn't assume he wouldn't be until we hear otherwise, because we don't know what the validity of anything that happened is. We don't know what has been done.
I thought he got cleared.
I have not seen an official report on that, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. So I would say that there's probably still some things that need to be done, in terms of either missing time or doing something else to show that he has served some sort of a punishment for allegedly what happened.
I can't wait to watch Javaris Johnson catch some touchdown passes.
I really want Javaris Johnson. Same thing for like maybe a Malcolm Johnson. Same thing for a Camden Brown. I love all these new guys being here, and I hope, and I would say that for like Coy Moore too. I would really love some of these guys that have been here for some time, at least one of them, to kind of become more than we thought they could be at this point.
Yeah, we had a cookout tonight at church.
You did? What'd you guys eat?
Hamburger and hot dog.
Let me guess. You are a hamburger guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more of a hot dog guy, but I love both of those. I mean, if it's grilled, it's good stuff right there. So one day when we have the E2C Network tailgate, we'll have both. We'll make sure we've got hamburgers for you.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
I got one more question for you.
Yes, sir. Hit me with it.
How about the defense line?
I actually need to look into them more. So here's what I know and what I remember. We got Jason Jones, Marcus Harris shoring up the middle of that for us. without Dylan Brooks here at the edge rusher position, that was kind of like the heir apparent or anything, but you brought in a lot of great talent. It's kind of hard to know what to think. I know the talent's there, but I don't know who's going to be the guy. I have a strong suspicion that Elijah McAllister is going to play really heavily into that edge rusher position. And I'm really hoping that like a guy like a Marcus Harris can step up and really make a name for himself this year, especially at the interior defensive lineman position. All right, Kevin.
I guess I'll see you September 2nd.
Sounds like a plan, buddy. We'll see you then. Thanks for calling in. All right, bye. War Eagle. Always great to hear from Kevin. You guys can call in too. Don't be shy. I don't bite. But maybe a little bit. Use the link at the top of the YouTube chat. If you're watching somewhere else, you'll have to go there to use it tonight. But I would love to hear from some of you. All right, Big Simp checked in. Let's see here. What's up, guys? Listen to Paul Feinbaum. First of all, what are you doing? Listen to Paul. Don't do that to yourself. On the Auburn podcast. Okay, so I guess that's fair. If you're listening to an Auburn podcast and he comes on, that's fair. He changed my mind about blaming Jimmy Rain for everything. Really great insight he gave. He's all in on free. So that was serious that he was defending like the Jimmy Rain thing. So I don't know the perspective. Here we go. Here's another comment. Paul said Louder and Rain was the best thing for Auburn football when they were in it. Helped the program a lot when they were in it. I'm pretty sure Rain's pretty heavily involved still. So here's what I'll say about the conversation about boosters. And when we talk about boosters now, you have to be careful because if you're contributing to an NIL collective, you are now a booster. And it's a more convoluted issue, more convoluted discussion than just simply what most people made of it was blame somebody with money. And that's more of a commentary on our society and a lot of, and I'm speaking for myself from past experiences feeling about this, just a lot of jealousy about some money and their ability to use that money for power. Cause unfortunately that's what happens in this world. And there are a lot of people that use that for really bad stuff, even something as simple as influence over football teams. But I don't think it was as cut and dry as a lot of our fans made it seem. Do I know Jimmy Rain personally? Do I know Bobby Louder personally? No. But I don't think they were as bad or as bad as people would make them out to be. Just my opinion. You can do whatever you want. It's free. So you know how much it's worth to you. All right. We got our first caller in. So let's go ahead and talk. Oh, that's our second caller. What am I thinking about? Let's go ahead and talk to him right now. You know him. You love him. He's back. Mr. Thomas Mandel. What's going on, sir?
How are y'all this evening, guys? Good to see y'all in War Eagle.
Good to see you, buddy. It has been a minute since I've seen your smiling face.
Yes, sir. It has been.
What you been up to?
Oh, just working, living, playing music, and researching Auburn.
I saw you got an Instagram. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah. So what made you get on the Instagram game?
E2C Network.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that the real answer? Is that the answer you're giving to schmooze me?
No, that's the real answer.
Well, hey, listen, for people like you and many others helped us get to that 1,000 Instagram follower marker. So thank you for that. That was it's funny how those things work sometimes. Like you'll be sitting at a certain number forever, and then all of a sudden it's like Instagram flips a switch. It's like, all right, we're going to release all these followers who were technically there. You just didn't know about them. And then you finally get there. It's kind of how I feel like us sitting just below the 4,000 on YouTube. I feel like we've got some hidden in like some pocket dimension, and eventually they're just going to release them to us. But what do I know? You didn't come here to talk about that though. What's on your mind?
Man, just Auburn football. I mean, realistically, I love all of the sports. And Devin, it's the same as my Twitter. It's TM Manville. It's just Auburn football. Just in general, there's such an energy around the program right now that we hadn't had in so long. I mean, I did love Harsin. I was a Harsin guy, but
Yeah.
it didn't work out. So I'll admit that it didn't work out. But man, there's such an energy around the Auburn program right now. There's the transfers that have come in, the quality of the transfers that have come in, and the recruiting, and just this this upswell of Auburn is happening, and I'm so glad it's happening. Like, I can't wait to be a part of the Hugh Freeze era of Auburn football as a fan.
Are you a new season ticket holder by chance, or is that still a little bit out of your price range?
Oh, that's way out the price range, brother.
Yeah, I'm probably going to succumb to it here very, very soon. Like I've said, I'm pretty open about it. I just normally find my tickets where I can, but
Yeah.
I think this may be a year where I finally bite the bullet and get some, because it feels like if you can't find some tickets easy this year, you're going to be struggling to find some.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. There's this new life to Auburn football that we hadn't had in a couple of years, and it's refreshing to see that, and it's refreshing to see the fans take part in it. Us, the fans, take part in it to invest our time in the recruiting, the news out of the university, and we're doing things that we hadn't done in a couple of years, and it's wonderful to see.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of what Auburn's known for is kind of coming together, especially when times are good. It's, we can all say it's easy to do that when times are good, but I do feel like when you give the Auburn, we'll call it a family, yes, but the collective, something to rally behind. We see this a lot like in professional or semi-pro sports. If you give Auburn people something to rally behind, they will show up in droves for you, especially when it's actually Auburn sports, the college sports. So it is amazing what can happen with just a little bit of energy, a little bit of life. And that's definitely what Hugh Freeze has given us.
Yep, you're 100% right, and y'all know me. I got to talk about the offensive line.
Let's hear it.
He completely revamped it, like start to finish. He brought in everybody he needed to. Now, some of their measurables are a little shorter, a little lighter than what you would normally get with SEC linemen, but he brought in guys that are proven, guys that can do what they're supposed to do. Now, it's unheard of to have a 6'3" tackle in the SEC, but he brought in two of them. Yep. He brought in guys that can change positions. He brought in depth pieces that can, he may be a center, he may be a guard. That's great. We need that. He can be a guard, he can be a tackle, which is odd. That's something that doesn't normally happen.
Right.
But he brought those pieces in because Hugh Freeze understands football, unlike other people we've had in coaching roles in the past of, we're going to move this guy here. It just doesn't always work that way. But he brought in the pieces that I feel we need on the front line to make things what they need to be. And he did it quickly, and he did it methodically. And that bodes well for Auburn football. And then he brought pieces in on defense. And we're going, why are we continuing to add defensive backs? Because we need them. Because he understands how to coach a dadgum football team. And he knows what he needs this year to be successful, and he also understands what he needs in recruiting, and he's going after that. Yeah. And that's completely different than things we've dealt with in the past couple of years. I mean, let's say the last 5 years. We'll go that far. But it's just a new breath into Auburn football. It's a new life into Auburn football, and it gives me and the rest of the fans and you yourself this new passion into it, that I'm not worried about the roster anymore. Mm-hmm. He's going to take care of it. And we're going to bring in quality people. They're going to play Auburn football the Auburn way and be Auburn men. And that's so great. I can't be happier about it, really.
Thomas, I'm not sure I'm really clear about how you feel about this situation. So try a little harder to explain that next time, if you don't mind. No, listen, I think you're hitting on a lot of good points there. We are, my caveat always, we are playing the speculation game, but there were some very clear needs that were addressed very quickly. And right now, so there's two parts of this game, especially for a head coach. We all know this, right? There's the game of you've got to fill the needs immediately, but you've also got to play the game of what's going to be coming up too. He's done that, right? You've also, just there's so much that goes into being a great head coach, and it looks like Hugh kind of gets that. We won't know how this story ends, how long this story will go, but so far, what did we talk about when Hugh got here? Even with all the speculation about past and all that kind of stuff, and it's the same thing that he said. He just asked for a chance. You're given that chance and start checking the boxes. And that's what he did. The first box was go out and recruit. Second box is stay out of trouble. Personally, as far as we know, he stay out of trouble thus far. So that's all you can really ask for at this point. Now it's win some football games, and no, I don't think a reasonable person is saying, if you don't go undefeated this year, you're a terrible coach. But most people are saying, we understand the situation we find ourselves in, but we also know that we're Auburn. And we also know that we have a history of doing big things when nobody expects us to.
You're right about that. And for me personally, like, I don't want to get too far ahead into the season, but a win in a bowl game is a win for the Hugh Freeze tenure.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a win for his coaching staff. And that's something that we have not had in a long time. I mean, Malzahn won games. He beat Alabama more than anybody else has beat Nick Saban.
But had trouble winning bowl games. I'll even say it.
He could not win a dadgum bowl game, and it killed me. It's like, dude, we already beat our biggest rival. How are we slacking off?
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me, and I'm not going to, jump down that rabbit hole. But I'm just excited about the Hugh Freeze era. And like you said, he asked for a chance, and I believe in forgiveness. I really do, and I think he has every opportunity to do things completely right, the way it should be done at Auburn. And the fans and the boosters back him at this point. So let's put all of our energy and efforts into Auburn right now, or kick rocks.
You must have been talking to my wife, because that is her favorite phrase, kick rocks. That's a nice way of saying something else. Yeah, that's why I laughed so hard at that one. If it wasn't in the headphones, I wish she could have heard that. She would have really appreciated that. Yeah, I love the excitement, man. And I'm hoping that all the excitement that we have now is going to be rewarded as we get closer and further into this upcoming season. And you know this too. I'm just saying this for the general publics. Everybody needs to go into this season with tempered expectations, but hopeful expectations of what could be, rather than what, oh my gosh, what can we do, type of thing. So
yeah, I mean, eight wins meets my expectations at the end of the year, plus a bowl game, but 9 wins exceeds my expectations.
Oh yeah.
Yes. With the way he's overhauled this roster and the way he's bringing folks in, there's no way that we cannot succeed unless we implode on ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's up to all.
When you're playing Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Texas A&M, and yes, Texas A&M had a terrible year last year, but you're playing those 3 names every single year for now, that's at least 4 games that are in question. So that's a very reasonable thing to say. 8 wins is the expectation right now, and nine's exceeding expectations because of where the program's been, where those might be heading, all that kind of stuff that goes into that type of conversation. So, yeah, but love the energy, man. Love the optimism. And I thank you for spreading a little bit of it tonight with us.
All day, baby. War Eagle. All day until they put me in the ground. One win can change the whole season.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all I need. I believe in Auburn, and I love it.
Love it, baby. Love it. All right. Thanks for calling in tonight, Thomas.
Absolutely. War Eagle, y'all.
War Eagle. All right, great to hear from Thomas. Great to hear from Kevin. We're going to go ahead and close down the phone lines tonight. Sorry if you were planning on calling at the end there, but just to manage things. Not going away just yet. Saw some comments that I want to hit there, and you guys can keep the comments coming. We'll address some of those here. We're at the hour mark, but I want to start kind of winding us down. Couple of reminders. Stick around for these if you can, because important. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, another live stream here. We are back in the saddle with the Auburn Uniform Database and Clint Richardson himself. Join us. We're going to talk about a few of those crazy Auburn uniforms that he came up with for the summer 2023 years. He does every single summer. So join us tomorrow night as we hang out with him for a little while and talk about that. If you would like to, in fact, you can stay at the end of the stream. It'll take you directly to that watch page. Hit the like button, hit the notify me bell. It does help us get off to a good foot to start off that stream. This Sunday, 9 p.m., the Auburn Experience, episode 42, live recording. Don't miss that. That's always fun. Even after that recording, we hang around for a little bit, much like tonight. You can be a channel member for $1 a month here on YouTube. You could even take the next step and be a Booster Club member for $1 a month and higher over there at patreon.com/E2C Network. If you are a Patreon, if you're already a Booster Club member, check your messages and be watching for stuff. There's been some stuff that we've been posting there as of late. All those links in the description are ways that you can help support our content here at E2C Network and help keep the lights on. We appreciate those of you that do. All right, let's see. What were some of the things that you guys were saying? Wait, we can admit we supported Harsin and it didn't work out without getting attacked now. Here you can. Yeah, listen, Twitter is a bad microcosm of society a lot of the time, especially when it comes to sports. AU hasn't had a good O-line in quite some time. It'll be nice to see the QB not running for his life. As far as we know, he's not going to be running. Let's see it actually happen out in the field. I'm kind of jaded right now, so until I actually see it happen, I will say we did at times get better at pass protection last year, but not consistently. Big Simp talking about Paul Feinbaum when they was talking about Jimmy Rain, I think, and Freeze hire. Paul did say that the hiring of Freeze was perfect timing. Freeze is still young and vibrant. I don't know if he's young. Saban is older. Said Saban feels the heat now with Kelly at LSU and Freeze at Auburn. Yeah, I would say that it could be perfect timing if the damage that's been done to the program isn't too bad and it takes longer for Hugh to get things officially righted. Don't think it will be, but you could understand if it did, right? But with his era ending, that being Saban, Brian Kelly, and really Hugh Freeze just beginning, you could understand why that would be a little bit intimidating, right? Bam, our cousin kissers never forget. Freeze is 20 years younger than Saban. Smart is even younger. Really? Kirby's... Oh, no, Kirby's Smart. I was thinking Jimbo Fisher for some reason. Kirby Smart, yeah, he's definitely younger than him. We might get our first 5-star wide receivers since 2022. Remember, stars are only as good as what they do on the field. So it doesn't matter what many stars they come in with. It matters what they leave with. But it is cool to say that that would be the first one. So I get the novelty behind that. Hugh and Phillip both have a great history of receivers, so I'm not that shocked. Oh, yeah. Reputation precedes you, especially in the recruiting game. So I have no shock about me that that's going to benefit us. Smart is 47. Freeze is 53. Oh, they're a lot closer than I thought they were. Yeah, I don't know. I thought Freeze was a little bit older than that, but I guess not. Anyway. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for here tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in, hanging out with me, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. I hope to see you here tomorrow night. Show up for Clint if you can. Love to see your smiling virtual faces here to hang out with him to talk crazy Auburn uniforms. He's got some good ones this year. And then, obviously, we will meet on Sunday at 9 Eastern time for another live Auburn Experience podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here, hanging out with me, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until I talk to you again, War Eagle.